Hello, I am Lise Colucci, and I'm one of the life coaches at queenbeing.com, where we help you to discover, understand, and overcome narcissistic abuse in toxic relationships. Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be back here. My room is no longer in disarray with people doing my floor. So, yay. Hi. How have you been this week, guys? Hello to everyone who's here. Hi, Fashion Family and Karina and Iraq Freedom. Hello, hello. Okay, so let's get started today. We're going to talk about reparenting yourself and your inner child. So, sound good? If that sounds good, and if you want to know your own power and overcome toxic abuse in your life, hit subscribe and join me as we do this journey together. So, also, if you have any need for support, any need for information, head over to queenbeing.com, where you can find all sorts of information. You can find links to things like support groups and links to quizzes and links to classes and all kinds of information and goodies to help you heal. And head over to Span if you would like a large group support on Facebook, Queen Being Spanily. And otherwise, if you need information for coaching, it's also on queenbeing.com. So let's get started with this today. You like the plants? Yeah, I had them there, and James said leave them there. So I said, okay, I'll leave them there. Thank you, James. And Eric is the lipstick, and you guys will get me going here. Okay, so reparenting yourself. Why do we need to? Because we have been programmed from toxic parenting, right? It doesn't even need to be toxic parenting. It can just be life itself as a child. Something happened, something traumatic, created patterning and programming in our heads that are now what we believe to be ourself. They're now the parts of ourself that we believe to be our beliefs about ourself. And those thoughts and patterns and beliefs that are not serving our life, that are put in there from parenting or childhood things where we didn't feel parented in a particular situation, whatever it is that put it there from early on. How do you change that? And how do you even begin to look at it and know what it is that you're dealing with? So Iraq Freedom is saying, yes, for me, toxic parenting all the way through. I'm just starting to see this, and much anger, hatred for them for what they did, sadness that I came from that. Right. And being that our parents are a part of us, often shame follows suit with that, right? Because we're part of them, really, right? So, okay, so sometimes when we don't know what it is we're up against, we don't know, like, how do you reparent yourself? What does that even mean? Where do I start, right? If you start looking at the beliefs, and if you know you had toxic parenting, or if you had traumatic upbringing or something like that, where you have had not had the most secure and loving and supportive foundation for your early childhood, then, and especially if you had a narcissistic parent, since that's what we're here for, right? To talk about the narcissistic abuse. We often don't even know where to start with this or what that even means. We believe the beliefs we have because they're what we think is how we think. They're what we think is who we are and how we think. So if you start listening to the limiting beliefs, they're limiting beliefs, the things that keep you from moving forward in your life and the things that keep you from experiencing joy in your life, experiencing the positivity in your life, the things that hold you back. Those limiting beliefs are usually things like what? I can't, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough. All of them. You can go through a huge list of what those limiting beliefs might be, but they're going to be what they are for you. Those are not beliefs that are serving your life anymore. Those are beliefs that were put there, that were programmed in because of the situation you were in as a child. They were survival mechanisms to keep you feeling safe enough to live through what you had to live through. They're no longer needed. But the only way to actually know what it is you're working with is to start listening to yourself and listening to the beliefs that you actually have about yourself and about the way you perceive yourself within this world and the way you function. Hi, Angela and Darla. you're really struggling, trying to dig deep into my past in therapy. Okay, so when looking at it from a more coaching perspective, it would be how to move forward from this point on, which goes hand in hand with the digging deep, right? So, it is like cult. It's like cult deprogramming that must be done. Probably it is a bit like it's reprogramming. It is taking ownership of your own life. When we talked about accountability a few weeks ago, it's that. It's taking ownership for your own life to move forward. That's really bright. I'm gonna put that back. To move forward with your life in a more positive way. And by listening to the limiting beliefs that you have, a lot of times we don't even know what they actually are. So sometimes you have to be okay with the discomfort of listening to yourself say things that are not real, that are toxic to yourself. I can't. I don't want to. Looking for things that feel like excuses, that feel like, but it's really hard. This is too hard. I can't do this. It's too hard. Everything is hard. It's hard to do this. It's hard to, make change. Everything's hard, that kind of thing. Or everything is, I'm not worthy. It's not good enough. The things that lead you down that rabbit hole of, being stuck completely where you are. Those negative beliefs hinder my creative process. Exactly. That's not good enough. They totally hinder your creativity process. It'll hinder you in ways that block the way you want your life to flow. And creativity is a big one, right? So I'm just going to read what I wrote here. So, one obvious way that is not so easy, but it's a direct way, is to look at those beliefs, write them down, and restate them so that you have a phrase to go to when you are when you're feeling yourself say these things. Notice what's happening in your body when you say these things, and nurture your body so that you have relief from the anxiety that it creates. You guys can ask any question you want about this too. I'm kind of going off my own flow here. So, and nurturing. So then sometimes if you are in therapy, or sometimes it just can come up where you realize where this came from. And you say, well, I can see why I would believe this because, you know what I'm saying? I think most of us know that point. Right? We know why we believe the things we believe. It's just how to change it. So if you had a toxic parent, it's like any other deprogramming from trauma bonding and the toxic abuse, where you have to disbelieve the voice of that toxic parent. Their voice cannot be the authority in our head. We have to create a new authority in our own heads that overrides the voice of this toxic parent. It takes work. This is effort, you guys. This isn't like something that just happens. This is literally creating new neural pathways in your own mind to create the life you want. So if your limiting belief is, I'm not good enough, you might say something to yourself like, I'm good enough right now. I'm good enough. I am perfectly what I need to be. You can state it as neutrally or as positive as works for you. Some people really like to go the complete opposite direction and say, I am amazing, and other people that sounds ridiculous and they need to go to a more middle ground. Like I'm exactly what I need to be. And, or maybe looking for evidence, like, am I always not good enough? I'm good enough right now. That's what Mo Cowboy is saying. So, or any evidence in my life where I have definitely been good enough. Yes, that's another way. Looking for things, so this is why gratitude lists are important, and including yourself in that daily gratitude is extra important. It's great to be grateful for things. We tend to be people who are already kind of grateful for things, so it's kind of redundant in a sense. It's important because we lose that sight when we're in the middle of abuse. But including yourself in that, including yourself in the gratitude of 3 things you love about yourself, you might want to do 3 things that I did that were great, 3 things that were good enough. What does good enough even mean? What does that even mean? And why is being good enough equated with being worthy of anything? I just start questioning all of the questions. I question all of the beliefs until I come to the conclusion that I'm the one who gets to make the choice in my life, not somebody else's programming of me. Does that make sense? But it's, what are you guys saying here? Grace is saying, I don't believe many of those statements and I can't seem to lock it in. Just don't think I've done a good enough job at life. Because you are qualifying based on some other belief. So you may not believe those beliefs. Potentially, you have another belief underneath there. This is the journey into self, my friend. This is the fun part. It's painful and it's liberating and freedom at the same time. So what I would ask is, where do you lie with perfectionism, Grace? How do you feel about perfectionism? Because that to me sounds like you are qualifying based on some criteria that your life should be something or something else. I'm a very positive and optimistic person in general, but I look around and see I really haven't done a good job. Who qualifies what a good job is, and what do you see that you do in your life that is doing a good job? You know what I'm saying? Like, all areas of our life aren't necessarily going to be perfect in order for it to be a good life. A lot of areas can be falling apart and you can still have a good life. This is about our belief about ourselves in order to continue to evolve rather than being stuck where we're at, right? So the belief that my life, that I haven't done good enough, is going to keep you in that state of not doing good enough. It's usually not enough to spur you out of it, right? So let's see. Mo Cowboy says, I understand and relate to Grace as no one is perfect. That's when I use nevertheless. That's perfect. Okay. Just trying to figure out what caused me to feel like I'm not capable of the simplicity. The only thing I can remember is my mom doing everything for me. Could that have programmed me to feel that way? It sure could. Yeah, not being taught you're capable by somebody doing everything for you can totally program. Like I said, it's not even always toxic. It can just be the way your mind perceived the way things were around you, or somebody, mine, not intentionally or not toxically, but the behavior, it wasn't maybe the best behavior for what you needed at the time for your growth. So we grow up these places by looking at them, or one way is to look at them and start working with the beliefs around them. So this is a place where you're pushing into your discomfort. None of this is comfortable. It's not like you just see a belief, what did you say here? What did you say here? Like, I'm not capable. Like, okay, I'm not capable. I don't feel capable. And then magically, because you see it, it goes away. You gotta do something with that information. I don't measure up to anyone. Why do you need to measure it? So this is when I ask questions of myself. If I don't measure up to other people, I don't measure up to anyone, Darla, I would ask, well, why am I comparing myself to anyone else? We are all unique and individual people. How would it be if someone compared their life to you and were feeling like they didn't measure up because you do something so much better? It's not really an equal comparison. You'd say, well, but your talents lie over here. Of course, you're not as good of a painter. I'm a painter. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I do. How come? Of course, you've never picked up paints in your life, or when you have, and maybe it's not your thing, but you have an amazing ability at singing, and I can't sing. You know, it's whatever. We're comparing ourselves to non-comparable things, which are other people. And we can't, society teaches us we're supposed to do that, but it's not a reality. And that's not a reality that gets you happy. And it's not a reality that is very beneficial for your growth. So I would look at why you feel the need to measure up. Where'd that come from? And start to accept yourself for who you are in all kinds of ways. We'll talk about ways here in a second. Grace is saying, I've got parenting, compassion, and empathy down, but I can't seem to make any money or progress with passions. That's the belief. Oh, and I have no relationships other than my kiddos. That seems to be a bit of a failure too. So you are thriving in some areas. So you're out of balance. Whoa. blurry. There we go. Out of balance is what it sounds like. Not that you're failing. It's that the balance is tipped because you've been working on other things. Maybe, I don't know. It's a perspective shift, because if you keep the perspective that I can't do these other things, but I can do that, you get stuck there. Yeah, money is a tricky one. It's I think it's a struggle for a lot of people, and also relationships and friendships are a struggle for people. So you might invest some time into one or the other and take some of the skills that work for other people and start trying them. Not things that worked for you per se, but strategize for things that work for people who are successful at those things, especially business. Look for people who are successful at doing the thing you want to do and figure out what are their strategies for doing that thing. It takes it out of the realm of can't and puts it into the realm of maybe it's possible. Does that make sense? If you keep it in the emotional space, money and emotions aren't really, it's not going to get you anywhere feeling like you can't make progress. But strategizing on ways to potentially make progress opens up a different door. That sounds about right. Out of balance. Maybe it's a result of being so codependent for so long. With new eyes around abuse, I'm hoping the future can look different. The future is looking different. It just isn't fast. You're already laying the pathway for the future to look different because of your open-minded experience of your life now. Your open-minded, your way of looking at things a little bit differently has opened up a different pathway. So sometimes like I said, it can be strategizing different when it comes to money. Can't advise further much on that because I don't have it. What did you say, Mo Cowboy? No is what I do. An all or nothing programming I do to myself. I can change. That's true. You have to just say it. I can do it. What else are we saying here? Did I miss anything? Okay. So, one thing to do is to look at the old beliefs. Look at those old beliefs, whatever they are. It could be anything, like could be even that, and find a new belief that has a possibility within it to affirm towards. So if your belief is one that is very critical, or if you've had critical people being critical of you, so that now your inner voice is a critic. What does it need? It needs affirmation, and it needs support, and it needs somebody to have its back and believe in it. So you become that person that has your own back at the same time as you're having this critical thought about yourself. Does that make sense? You listen to the voice that's saying whatever it is that's critical. I'm not good enough. I don't measure up to anyone. And then you can affirm, okay, well, that doesn't make any sense. There's got to be someone I measure up to. I measure up to myself right now. I mean, who am I trying to measure up to? I can do this. I am capable. You affirm in contrast with the belief. If it's something that where neglect was involved, if you had a lot of neglect in your life and you were left on your own to find your own way emotionally and your own way, even physically, or whatever happened with you where neglect was in place, it might be something that requires nurturing and meeting the needs that are in the present moment. A lot of times people neglect their emotional states. They neglect their physical health. They neglect their need for exercise. They neglect their self-care. They neglect all kinds of things. As you work on self-care, you're also healing the neglect piece. Does that make sense? Especially if you can tie the two together. If you can pay attention to the fact that I feel neglected a lot, and that hurts, as you're doing something that is self-care in a nurturing sense, then you are fulfilling the need of that inner child to have somebody give to it, to have somebody there to support it. What did you say? Silencing my inner critic has been a profound realization. Yeah. Okay. Iraq Freedom says, my therapist told me today she thinks I can do more. Thought later, are you experiencing PTSD? Do you live in my mind and body every day? I just got mad at it. It's what we see as a therapist, as a coach, as anyone who is looking at you for, in the sense of wanting the best for you and your potential, is not what you're going to see when you're in the middle of it. Is not what we're seeing when we say something like you can do so much with your life. You can do whatever you want. And you're feeling like, yeah, right. You don't feel what I feel every day. But what we're seeing is your light and your beauty and your strengths. We're seeing your strengths, and we're seeing your capabilities, and we're trying to mirror back to you who you are from the perspective that we're sitting at. We don't know who you are, you know who you are, but we see, if we're looking and listening, we see your potential. You see potential in others. You know what I'm talking about. We see the potential, and we see the capabilities, and we see the strengths, and we see all that stuff, and we're trying to hold it up so that you see it too. But it's got to be a matter of timing, and sometimes the trigger, what you're seeing, what you're experiencing there, it might be what you need to spur thought about it so that you can change your own perspective on it. If someone sits idle and doesn't say something like that, what they deem encouraging, like you said, they thought they were being encouraging, then you never have the chance to experience this trigger that says, I can't. So now you get to see where your limits are and work on the limits, right? And also there's other, like you're saying here, that the forms of support come in many, many ways. So sometimes it's not one thing. It's somebody being encouraging and triggering, and then somebody else saying what I just did, and you saying, yeah, that makes sense. You know what I mean? It's the balance of both. And so yeah, it's tricky. And I know what you're saying. I've had that feeling. So we get self-defeating, right? Because it isn't easy, and we are stuck when we're in this position. And yeah, sure, I may have all this potential inside me locked up, and who knows what I could be, blah, 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 right? But it's really hard to actualize that when you feel so bogged down underneath all the trauma. So what I'm suggesting is look at the beliefs that it triggers and work on that piece of that belief. So what you are describing is the next thing I was going to say on my little list of a few beliefs that can be turned around by dutifully working on creating a new belief, is the devaluing. And we know what that's like, right? We know what that's like from narcissistic abuse, to be devalued. We're continuing to devalue ourselves when we get in this place of a defeatist attitude toward our own potential. Does that make sense? You're devaluing her compliment that you could do anything, that you could do more, however it was worded. Not to devalue her or his compliment, but to devalue it as it relates to self. You're taking over the abuse. Yes, right. So what do we need when we're devalued? Anybody? What do we need when we're devalued? What do you guys need? When you felt the most devalued by your narcissist, what was it you needed the most? I think validation is a big one. Validation. Yes, things are difficult right now. And yes, I do have potential locked inside of me. There does not need to be anything more qualifying about it. We don't have to have a story around it. Validation. Yep. Sex and chocolate. But that's always the answer. But affirmation, validation. Yes. And affirmation. Yeah. The devaluing, comfort. With Angela. Uh-huh. Chocolate is a must. Okay. Care. Right. So that's what we give to ourselves when we create the new belief. So you might say to yourself in a situation like that, Iraq, that that you're feeling like it sounds like you felt invalidated for what you're experiencing because he or she said something positive to you about what they think you can do. So basically they're trying to shine a light upon your possibility and potential. And it sounds like it made you feel potentially devalued. Not validated in your experience of the PTSD that you live with and what goes on in your mind and body every day. And you can hear an effect of that. What they were probably most likely trying to do is shine a light so that you see yourself through their eyes for just a second, because changing perspective is everything. That's how we change our life. But to get there, right? So if I felt devalued like that, if I felt that I was not being heard and not being understood, and I knew that the intention was well meant and that there is some message in there for me that I need to hear. Sometimes we don't want to hear this stuff. And that's part of it. We don't want to hear that we have potential when it's hard enough to get out of bed in the morning. I'm like, forget it. I don't care if I have potential. It's hard to get up, you know? And so when we're hearing something we don't want to hear, but we know it's good for us to hear it, that's not a negative statement necessarily to say you can do more, depending on how it's said and what the way, you know, the intention behind it, then what you're needing is validation. And what you're needing is nurturing and care around the truth of both things. Yes, it's difficult for me with CPTSD because of this. And yes, I do have potential locked inside of me. I can do more. It's not no but. Not if you say it to yourself. So another thing is eliminating the buts and replacing it with the ands. If you say to yourself, I know I can do more. I'm not stupid, but I've got PTSD and it's ridiculously difficult. The CPTSD makes it so that I can't function. You've just taken the positive and wound it right down into like the old belief that you literally can't, right? Instead of, if you replace it with, yes, I have PTSD and it's difficult, and I also know I have potential locked inside of me, you have created an opening for that potential to at least have room to grow and be real as well. Every time you deny your positives, you're devaluing yourself and you are not validating the good and the positive within you. And that is not going to get you where you want to go. Does that make sense? All right. Okay. Oh, what am I missing here? I felt like she didn't get the scope of the trauma responses, so whether or not that person got it, sometimes the message can come, because I do think that's a good message. I don't know you, but I know you've got potential locked inside of you because you come and you show up and you work on yourself. And the things you say are intelligent and you know, I can understand them and there's potential, there's something in you. I don't know you, obviously. I've never seen you. I don't know anything about you in person, and so I'm not going to lie and say I know what that potential is, but I know it's in there because people have that. Tell me you don't see potential in other people. Just tell me that. And then we can have a different discussion. But so sometimes the message may come at the wrong time and from a person that we feel like should understand something differently, but the message itself isn't the bad thing. So maybe looking at what that message is teaching you now, instead of locking into the fact that she didn't hear you. Does that make sense? She was asking me what is stopping me from looking for work so I can get out of the abusive relationship. Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky to talk about. And I can see the point in what she was saying and why she was saying it, because she wants the best for you. She wants you to move forward with your life. And yeah, so it's tricky. And so it's just a matter of parenting that piece maybe for yourself so that you can hear the message without attaching, with the and instead of the but. Does that make sense? Okay. I get what you're saying. We all have our own thing we are good at. I did have an older sister who was always competitive with me because I was the youngest. Right. Is it true that narcissists only feed on those with potential? Well, all people have potential. So yeah, I think all people have potential locked inside of them. They even have potential. That's why we stay. I mean, a lot of it is because we see their potential. No potential. No. Well, it's our ability. It's our offering up of potential as supply, right? They feed off of what they can draw out in us, which is if they can see our potential, they can draw it out in us by love bombing us, by building us up, by idealizing all that stuff. And then they can feed off it for supply. Correct. That's what I think. I don't know. Yes, I see it in everyone but myself. Well, until now, self-empowering statement. Heck yeah. just keep saying them. Use those empowering statements. So when I have a negative belief, I flip it to, would I feel that way about anyone else? Sure, there are people I might feel that way about, but for the most part, no. I'm being self-critical, which means there's something to be questioned in that belief. So I can affirm at that point pretty positively that in a way that is not feeling like I'm lying to myself. Because if I think I see potential in everyone, therefore it must exist in me, because I am a human being and I am no different from everyone else, even though I'm a unique individual, right? But why would I be the only human being in this planet to not have potential? That doesn't make any sense. So you see, then you can just affirm it based on that. We don't have to feel these affirmations right away. We just have to start using them so that the piece of us is stronger and standing up to the negativity and is shining a light back rather than sucking us deeper into the darkness. Does that make sense? I made an action plan this week that I want to achieve. What could go wrong? Steps I'll take to achieve. I felt great. That's a good idea. Okay. What did I miss? Did I miss anything? I don't know. Okay. So keep going. What did I write here? So oftentimes we're actually not listening to our needs, is what I think. We are listening to the programming, not the needs underneath the programming. What was it that you needed when you had the negative thought from the programming, and how to, question, here we go. Since I see potential in many people as evidenced by past behaviors and actions, is that why I am so hard on me? Well, we are probably looking at your failings and the programming that taught you that those failings were negative and bad things. We all make mistakes and fail and struggle and all of that, but those are actually growth potential versus, like if you think about anything innovative being done, because you're intelligent, that it's through failures that we create success, and it's through not stopping and continuing on anyway. And this is back to grace and money and friendships and relationships as well. As we make effort towards something, the failings that we have are stepping stones toward the successes that will be. Does that make sense? As long as we're not repeating the same pattern in it, as long as we're learning something and evolving through it, that there is potential for that to grow and to become something better. It also attracts people to you, because when you are on a friendship level, when you are a person who is self-aware and paying attention to yourself and trying to take care of yourself in that way, it attracts people who are doing the same thing often. It has in my life. Rapidly, it did. So I don't know. Other than that, let's see. Okay, so when it comes to inner child, when we're talking about inner child, it took me a long time to know even what the heck that meant. I can pretend I'm a kid and what I would have felt. I can kind of remember stuff, but I didn't connect with what that actually meant as it relates to today. Because I'm not a kid, you know what I mean? I'm not that child. Yes, I am, but at the same time, it was hard to identify with it as that child still being in me and that child still speaking through me. Does that make sense? Okay. And so I'm going to ask you guys, what does it mean to you, your inner child? And how do you access being in contact with that part of yourself? Or do you know, or what is it? Talk to me about inner child. And I'm going to read here and then we'll come back to it. My parents are realists, so they validate my career and passions shortcomings. I think they are relating to me, but it's actually not very helpful. So what does it sound like you need there? You need validation. So it goes back to devaluing. So if your statement of self limitation is devaluing, value it, give it value, validate it. Okay. If your statement is neglectful, ignoring, neglectful, nurture it and give it life, give it care. If your statement to yourself is critical, perfectionism, critique, affirm and give it space to have the life that it has rather than a qualifier on top of it, good and bad. Does that make sense? That's a little chart there for ways to work with those beliefs. What is your take on the idea that one's idea of the universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it, mimics how you were treated as a kid? Oh, interesting. Because I've been having huge feeling that the universe must be against me. Oh yeah, I think we can't see the way the universe works or whatever you want to call it. You're right. It makes you operate on a very low vibration. So I realize that actually true. I'm making myself so bad and defective that the entire universe must be against me. That's a bit much. Yes. Okay. I think that you, where you're placing your focus is on the negativity because the negativity is what you're taught to place your focus on, right? It's how you survived. It's what you were taught. And so if you start turning your life towards this, you start seeing the universe operating differently, and the universe itself will be have attractions towards you that operate differently. I don't know how that works. I don't understand it. That part, I just know it changes things. And I can't scientifically or anything explain it. I just know that it changes things when when the way we perceive things, whether you call it the universe or whatever, the way we perceive things and the way that force or whatever it is acts upon your life, it flows together. Does that make sense? You're talking about a vague statement here that I can't really explain, but I think it makes a difference is what I'm saying. I think all of what we're talking about here makes a huge difference. Butterfly Mama is saying, I think the inner child is the basis core of who we are as a person. We can access the inner child by looking at a picture of us as a child. This is one way of accessing the inner child. Correct. That's good. That is what I was going to say too, is look at a photo. Use a photo to find your inner child. Yes, I have felt the other way too in some moments of flow, says Erock Freedom. So I can't say I have never felt in flow. And do you feel like the universe is operating on one level and you're on another? Is that what you're saying? Because that means you're not in sync with what is okay. So becoming in sync with your potential instead of your pain. Your pain's going to be there. It's going to be along for the ride. Your CPTSD is going to, put it in the back seat and put your potential in the front seat and see where the universe takes you. That's what I'm suggesting. It's not that we get rid of the CPTSD on the level that we want to, right? It's not that we can completely eliminate the pain and the suffering from our life. It'd kind of be ridiculous to think that we could, because there's always ebbs and flows of stuff, and triggers come up and there's layers, and life is just one thing after another layered on top of itself, right? So I didn't know how to verbalize it, but what you said, okay, good. Okay, so we're on the same page here. Okay, so put your potential in the driver's seat and your CPTSD in the back seat by reaffirming and restating and creating new neural pathways to help to change beliefs, look at the beliefs, gain perspective around the beliefs. Like I said, there are NLP exercises around not changing beliefs, but finding perspective for the belief that you have so that you can open up more for yourself. And I can't do those here. Those are, I mean, in coaching, I can, here I can't. So there's that too. But okay. So your inner child, yes. Butterfly Mama is saying that, you know, she's saying that it's the basis and the core of who you are as a person. I think it's also a place that we are most, the basis and the core, the most pure, the most vulnerable, the most honest. It's also a place that can be locked in trauma because if you had trauma at those ages, obviously your patterns and your belief systems were set up through that trauma as a child. It's also a place it's difficult to access with our adult brains because when I think back to trauma, I think what I should have felt based on what I would feel now as an adult instead of what I actually felt as a child. Does that make sense? So to be honest with that child, I have to acknowledge what she felt. And that's a really difficult place for me to my brain to get around how to explain, except it's like taking empathy for the child that we have and logic at the same time, like letting them be who they are instead of identifying with that child in the sense of what I would feel now or what I would feel if I saw that happen to another child. It's actually, what did I feel in that moment? That was a realization for me that changed it. It changed it from being stuck in the pattern to realizing, wait a minute, this pattern, this belief I have actually isn't the experience I had. The experience I had was one of survival. It wasn't one of I'm terrible and worthless. The belief came later. The actual trauma and the thing that happened that led to it was survival. I was a pretty strong little kid when I think of it that way. And it completely changed the way I looked at the belief now. And I don't know if I'm explaining that way, but okay. Inner child, how do you define child? Somebody who needs others to survive. There we go. The survival, that's what I'm talking about, right? Hi, Nikki. We all need others to survive. Even as adults, we need community. That's right. So, okay. Using photos to access, some people can't access what the inner child is. Using a photo of yourself, affirming what you think that child needed. I don't think I have an inner child. We all have an inner child, as from what I'm told, because we were all children. It's just a state that you were, it's just that the state you were then exists in you now. You have maturity and perspective and have changed, obviously, because you're an adult. But that state of being, that state of innocence of the child is still in you. It's just buried under all the other stuff. So it's a piece of your subconscious, a piece of yourself and your subconscious that is, how do I explain this? I'm not very well. What are we saying here? The only child I can access is the one that has awful, immature behaviors and neediness. Oh, I like this one. Okay, this is Gwen. The only child I can access is one that has awful, immature behaviors and neediness that may come out every once in a while as an adult. What did she need? If she was being immature and needy, what does she need? Give her that. It's often in things that are not our most positive points of ourselves where we can find that inner child, like you're saying, because the child is screaming out for something. And what does she need? Why is she acting immature and needy? And that's when you can find a place to work. Look at a photo of yourself when you feel that and tell your photo what it is you needed to hear, or what you would say to a child if they were in that state. If you weren't supported, I'm going to make it up here. I don't know the history, but if you weren't supported and you weren't, and the only way you could get your needs met was to act out in immature ways and act needy and cling, then what would you tell a little child who, of whatever age the photo is you're looking at, what would you tell that child in order to help them feel secure, in order to help them find their own path in life rather than need to cling to someone else with the neediness? Does that make sense? Okay. Another way to find your inner child, and this would be good like for people who think they don't have one or who have a really difficult time accessing one, is find things that you loved as a child or would have loved as a child and revisit them. It doesn't mean you have to go do the thing, but sometimes it does. Swinging on a swing, going to an amusement park, whatever it was, picking up rocks, collecting rocks on a walk, whatever it is that children do that you loved to do. Revisit that space and get in touch with that space that is still in you. If we could hold on to the beauty of the child, then our perspective about joy in life can flourish. So it's not all difficult, horrible, dealing with the beliefs. It can also be dealing with the positives when you're looking at inner child work. Okay. Is it normal for parents to take pictures of their kids naked and put them in photo albums? I'm sorry, I just noticed this today. More weirdness. I don't know if it's normal, but you hear of it all the time. Depending on the age of the child, I think it can be, and the child, and if you just got a little, naked baby running around all the time and they don't like their clothes on, the chances are the pictures are going to get in there. If it's posing them nude, sitting on a bearskin rug, that might be a little different, right? I think it depends on and the age and the appropriateness of the photos, and how you feel about it now matters too. So let's see. I see so many people think it's cute to take pictures of their kids in the bath or on the toilet, especially in the 80s. It was very normal back in, and it may still be, I don't know. It was like a baby. Okay. I mean, I think shame around our body is a whole different topic. But it just depends on anything else that happened in your life with that. Its intention, and yeah, I don't feel right about it, but there's more stuff that would lead to me feeling weird about it. Okay. So that's why that makes sense for you then. Okay. I have hamsters and it reminds me of when I was young. See? And so that's nurturing the place in yourself that still is honoring that inner child in yourself. Not that we need to be going around, acting like children all the time, but it truly brings a joyful experience to your life. And so it's a way of using that. I don't even feel loving toward that child. That's awful. It's not stop. Don't qualify it with the awful. You don't feel loving toward that child. That child needs me. That child needs me to find compassion and empathy for her. It's not awful. It is what it is. It's painful. Don't put a qualifier on yourself though, that you are awful because of it, or that it is awful that you feel that way. You're allowed to not love your inner child. You're allowed to. It's just, but then what? And then what? You find how to find an inroad to loving your inner child. So you may want to look at things you loved as a child, Gwen, and you may want to go revisit those things, little things, whatever it is, so that you can get in touch with her in a way that's more compassionate, in a way that connects to her. It sounds like you're not connecting to her, because I doubt you would say that about any other little child. I don't love that child. Ew, yuck. I don't think you would say that. So, yeah. Okay. Journaling this stuff can be really useful, really important, and really useful. So maybe keeping a journal separate for inner child work, inner child, maybe write a journal to the inner child. What would you tell this child that he needs to hear? Write down these beliefs in there and really rework them in writing. Seeking joy every day children do this, right? Finding a place to attach to. If you don't know that your inner child, if you don't love your inner child, if you can't access that space, if you only have negative feelings about this person in you, that is, we're calling this child, the joy that we seek every day can nourish the relationship between yourself and that part of yourself. It's just a piece of yourself. It's not an actual child running around, right? It's a piece of yourself that we've got to learn to love. Because if you don't love the most pure and innocent and sweetest and most potential filled part of yourself, which is the child. I mean, think about a child. That's what they are, right? You love them. There's potential. There's all the possibilities in the world around that child, right? Think of what it is to love a child. And if we don't love that piece of ourself, or we never did, or no one else ever, we don't feel anyone else ever did to the point where we needed it to be, we're disconnected from it. And so to reconnect to it by seeking joy feeds that part of ourself. It can, especially if we use intention and we think, oh, this is like, I feel like a little kid. You ever do that? Like you do something really joyful and you feel, I'm so excited, like a little kid. And yeah, so, all right, I'm gonna cry now. Okay. Okay, not really. Yes, actually. Okay. I bring perfectionism with me to things that are supposed to be helpful and therapeutic, like journal writing and meditation. Why? Why you gotta be so perfect? Teasing you. Because you've been taught you have to be, or else. There's no such thing as perfect. And there's no such thing as the people who planted in your head that you need to be perfect are more imperfect than you can ever imagine. First of all, they're toxic. And second of all, they are as imperfect as everyone else. There is no such thing as perfect. To be perfect would be perfectly boring. All right. It's through the failings. It's through the messy, you should see my writing. I'm like, oh gosh. Okay. My journals are ridiculous nonsense half the time. I laugh at what I write. Like, okay, I try not to be critical of it and criticize. It's more just, okay. Who cares? Who cares? It's not about perfection. Your journal is your private space. That means to me that you are shaming yourself. And you don't need to do that. So letting that go, maybe keep a scribble journal in crayon, whatever it takes to do to make it fun and silly. Maybe, maybe allowing mistakes. My mother did that. She used to read my journal, and exploited me through it. She outed me from it. Keep it on. Oh my gosh, that just brings out the defiant in me. It makes me want to write it on a board on my wall and let anyone read it that wants to. It's make it fun. Yeah, make it fun. You used to like writing? Write in third person. Write in story form. Nothing. You can do your journal however you want. You don't even have to journal. You can do it on video. You don't have to do it at all. But if it's a place you want to work through and find a way to enjoy it, find something creative and new. Who cares what it looks like, sounds like, says? It doesn't matter. This is for you. No one gets to exploit it anymore. You get to own it. So Grace is saying, I've started asking my inner voice lately, would I say that to my kids or other children? Yes, exactly. And that's you speaking to the inner child that you're not seeing, Grace. That's how you find that place. Mostly it's a no. So I know that's my inner critic and it's probably incorrect. All right. Flashbacks of being exposed. Yeah. Okay. All right. So what else here? Another way to access the positive side of the inner child is, like I said, with the seeking joy, but it's also the childlike wonder. The childlike wonder that we still have in us is that everyone has it. We just don't access it because we get bogged down with stressing out and always being in this state of needing to heal and recovery. I think we need to balance the healing with the joy and the healing with the wonder. And that's how we discover ourselves, through both things at the same time. We are empathic people and we are capable of holding both. We're able to hold the positive and the negative at the same time because we are strong and capable. We did it the entire relationship with a narcissist. Now we can do it for ourselves in a positive way versus in a draining black hole dark way that we did with them. So the childlike wonder can be in things like discovering things, going new places, letting yourself feel a little excited and scared about something new. I don't know, just taking a moment to stop and look at things anything. The beach, yes, anything. The seashells on the beach, listening to the seashell and pretending you hear the beach, that all of that is a way to access the positive side of that inner child and let it come to life, so that life is not so serious and hard, because that is a place of like an openness. It's an opening to discovering other things too, and to being able to comfort and nurture the parts that are the more difficult with this work. So somebody said something. Mo Cowboy says, my inner critic feels totally vulnerable. My inner child feels totally vulnerable, no protection. So how can you create some protection in an emotional way or a physical way for that child? What does it need? What does he need to feel protected? I'm coming to the neglect thing. What I said earlier, if your old belief is one of neglect, nurture it, address the need, address it seriously, take it serious like you would for any other child that was in your care, and give yourself that. Let's see. Fashion Family says, I get it now. Access wonder, laughter, play, fun, and creativity again. Seems as we age, we get more somber, serious, and boring. Yeah, we get bored of ourselves, right? And we look for entertainment on the outside, and we look for validation and all that on the outside, because we're, spinning in the wheel of boredom. So, okay, of ourself. And we get bogged down with the heaviness of life and the trauma that we've lived. So, exactly. Yes, fun and the joy. What else we got here? I've got about like 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes. And so if anyone has any questions or anything else they want to talk about briefly here, hit me up. Otherwise, I'll just kind of wrap it up here and end very shortly and be back next week. Any topics you guys want to talk about next week, let me know too, so I can get going on that. What did I have for next week? Next week, I kind of wanted to talk about narcissistic abuse and the way it affects different types, personality types. And very soon we're going to talk about holidays. Anything else you guys want to talk about? You're not answering, so I guess we're good. Tiger. That's funny. I won't be here, Tiger. I mean tomorrow. Well, maybe I will, but Monday, yes. And it'll be a normal week now, Monday, because the construction here is done. Yes. Thinking. Okay. Time to turn down the volume on adulting. There's a balance. It's about balance, right? Balancing the play into your life. Let that inner child play instead of grieve. Oh, there it is. Let the inner child be what they were meant to be. The part of yourself as an adult that is able to access joy and play and lightness and wonder, non-judging creativity, the part that doesn't judge yourself. Children are innocent. They don't have that until it's planted in them to judge and to criticize oneself, right? Until traumas happen, until things happen. So love that part of yourself. Let it be in play at the same time as the part of the inner child that actually needs the healing is there, right? The part that is trying to restate these beliefs and is all heavy and burdened. Right now, it's like we're sad children and we want to hug that child and let them be happy and joyful again. Does that make sense? All right. Let's see. What did I say here? Yeah, okay, this is my little affirmation statement to you all for the day. I'm going to end with this. So let me just say real quick, if you have not hit subscribe, please do so. If you enjoy these programs, please hit the thumbs up. And if you would like a text notification of my going live, text me at 33222. Put the words Lise Live, LISELIVE, in the text, hit send, and I will text you about 10 minutes prior to going on. It's the only text I send. Also, if you are looking for coaching or group coaching, the information is on queenbeing.com. You can find it also in the link in the main description. I have all the links for any information regarding that and ways to reach me if you need to. So there we go. I just want to this is my little affirmation to you all. You are as worthy of love as any other child or person. And your inner child is waiting to hear that. Okay? Your inner child is just waiting there. Yeah, you got to believe it. You just believe in yourself, and that part of yourself that is waiting to be loved is in there, just waiting for you to step up and give it the nurturing that it needs. Pay attention to those voices and restate them so that you can free yourself up a little bit. All right, you guys, heading out. You gotta cooperate. Put that back. I don't like that. All right, there we go. It's better. All right, take care. I will see you next week. Have a good weekend and be well, okay? Listen to the song You Gotta Be, okay? All right, do it. I can't read who that is. Desiree? Did I say that right? I don't know. All right. Can you talk about balance in diet at some point? How to avoid extremes? Okay, let me think of how to do that. I see my inner child as a pure and most vulnerable part of me before I develop the defense mechanisms to protect myself. Right, exactly. It's the part that can access the joy and the purity and the innocence and yeah, and see clearly. I feel like the inner child and the wisdom of where I'm at now with my wisdom that I've gained through healing and the inner child are one thing, but they're just two ends of the same thing, right? So it's the wonder and the ability to be open and receptive like a child, wondering what's going on in this world. Where am I? Like everything is interesting. And the wisdom that comes from understanding and knowing myself are on both ends. And that's how I work with it. So, okay. How do you find the new normal with isolation? That's a good topic too. Okay, keep typing, you guys. If you have more, I'm going to end because I have to go pick up kids. So yeah. Okay, guys, take care. Chat here. If you have anything come up later, put it in a comment. I read them. I will write them down and do what I can. Take care. Bye-bye.